Hey guys, my name is Donnie and welcome back to the channel, and I hope that you guys are all doing well. Now in today's video we're starting off with a brand new series, or actually we are revisiting an old friend, and there's a lot of questions and controversies that I'd like to discuss with you guys. But as you know, in the meantime, Matthew started off with working on the Cobra, or building a Cobra out of aluminium, and I've in the meantime finished the Jaguar build. It is now in storage and waiting to be handed over to the customer, so that's going to be very exciting. And I'm also busy working on this little secret project in the background. But in the meantime, we've also been given the go-ahead to start restoring this old Land Rover Series 3 that I got going a couple of years back. If you might remember, I'll link a video up in the corner or down in the description. But this is an old Land Rover that was in storage for many years on a buddy of ours' farm, and he asked me to get it going. And this little car has been going beautifully and running absolutely great. It is just a gorgeous little Land Rover, but it needs a little bit of attention. Now guys, from a mechanical point of view, this Land Rover runs absolutely amazingly. It starts up, it fires up every single time perfectly. It goes through the gears. It's not too noisy for a Land Rover. It doesn't even leak too much oil, and we actually have checked the oil level, so there is still oil in the Land Rover. But guys, from a cosmetic point of view, it is showing its age. The seats are torn and worn out, and the exterior is also a little bit tattered, so it needs a lot of work. Guys, that brings me to the question at hand, and it's something that's been on my mind ever since I ever started restoring and working on cars, and that is, if you do a restoration on a car, or what is the definition of a restoration on a car? Because I've now in the last couple of years restored many cars, and I've always got couch warriors coming to me and saying that this car has not been fully restored because I did not rebuild the engine, or I didn't replace all the nuts and bolts on it, or whatever the case might be. So the question that I've got today is, what is the definition of a restoration, and when is a car actually been restored? Many people have got very different opinions on it. There are people that would say that a car has not been restored if the engine has not been rebuilt, if the gearbox not been rebuilt, if you didn't replace all the nuts and bolts and stuff like that. But guys, I'm gonna flip the camera over and I'm gonna have a look at the Land Rover and show you guys what we got to work with. And I also want to ask Matthew, do you mind coming and joining us, so we can just have a chat on this Land Rover, about the Land Rover and the work that needs to be done, because Matthew actually also has a lot of experience. Him and his dad's been restoring Land Rovers for many years, and maybe he can give us a little bit of insight of exactly what it means to restore a car and how far one should go in restoring a car like this old Land Rover. So guys, like I said, Matthew's also got some experience. Him and his dad's been working on Land Rovers for many years, and maybe he can give us some insight. Matthew, just let us know, if I was to now repaint this car, or how far should I go for it to be called a restoration?
Well, it depends. You can do a couple different things, I think. You can do mechanical restoration, leave the body, sort out the drivetrain and axles and things. Or you can do cosmetic restoration, you leave the drivetrain for the most part alone, and you just repaint everything. You make sure it's all nice, it's all new, it all works well. And a full restoration would be somewhere in the middle of those two. Rebuild everything, make it as close to factory as you can get.
Now the thing is, mechanically, as you know, this car runs and drives absolutely gorgeously. It doesn't leak too much oil, and it runs on all 4 cylinders. The compression is good, the gearbox seems perfect, the differentials and everything. Now would it be worth replacing or rebuilding the gearbox and diffs and stuff like that if there's absolutely nothing wrong with it?
No, there's no need to do any of that.
Yeah.
I think just a good respray, clean everything up, go through the brakes, make sure that it's a reliable, good looking car would be a great place to start. So
my question is, just how far should we go with the restoration? And you know, if we take it back to factory, is there a couple of things that we are allowed to or not allowed to do? Because we're going to take the body off of the chassis and redo the chassis, redo the suspension parts and everything like that. But would you say that we must repaint the chassis to make it factory again, or can we galvanize it, or can we powder coat it, stuff like that? Or will that be an abomination when restoring a car like this? And also, you know, for instance, the upholstery on the inside, do we replace it with vinyl again, or am I allowed to replace it with leather if I wanted to make it better, or will that not be factory?
I mean, all those options are great. I mean, it is whoever's Land Rover, it's their choice. But personally, I think a painted chassis is the way to go. I'm not a big fan of powder coat. In leather for interior in a Land Rover, depends on what you're going to use it for. There becomes a point where it gets too much.
You know, I love restoring these cars, and I also love to do the best that I can. But my opinion is, when you restore a car like this, restoring it to full factory spec would take thousands of hours. I mean, but take off the paint or just sand it down or whatever, because this car's got absolutely very little rust on it. There's not going to be much repairs to do on it. So do we acid dip it? What do we do? And how much do we spend on it? Because obviously the client is also just a normal human being. He's also got a budget that we need to keep to. So we got to do as best a job as we can with what we got and the budget that we got. And my opinion is, when you restore a car, now it's very open-ended, you know, how far a car could go as far as restoration. But I think that at least start with the foundations, make sure that everything is as perfectly done as you possibly can. And you can always replace parts and rebuild an engine and stuff like that at a later stage. But at least make sure that the fundamentals, the paintwork is perfect, the primer underneath is perfect, and then work your way up from there. And then at a later stage, or you can always upgrade parts like brakes and stuff like that, but at least what you do it as best as you possibly can. And I personally think that and feel that if you do a little bit of upgrades like leather upholstery and stuff like that, it cannot possibly be a bad thing. But anyways guys, let's just have a look at this car. What I really like about this Landy is that it is so original and so complete. I mean, there's a couple of things on this car that you don't really find on Landys anymore, because they just get worn away and lost and broken off. Like for instance, I got this little water reservoir tank with its original pump over there.
That's good. The heat shield here for the intake, I mean, that's usually almost always gone. It's still got the shroud, everything's there. I mean, it's still the original pipe for the intake.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's beautiful. But the question is, do we replace this pipe or try and recondition it? I don't even know how to do that, and if we could.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's all original. It's just so gorgeous. You also mentioned it's even got this original little
buffer strip for the bonnet,
buffer strip,
and it's clamped between the fenders like it's supposed to be.
So this is all original.
Almost definitely never been taken apart.
But we did notice that this car has been repainted at some stage. It is almost the same, or the original color, but as soon as you open it up, you can see that the color there, yeah. Now the question is, do we repaint it in that color, or can we use another color? Because we're gonna completely strip this car down. Another thing that you also mentioned, what was it about the roof?
Yeah, so this roof is definitely not original. It's no factory roof. Well, this is a steel roof. It should be an aluminium roof, and so these sides steel, and they should be aluminium.
But it's been well built. I mean,
yeah,
it looks like the original thing.
Brilliantly done. But this is a factory soft top vehicle. You can see it's got these hooks here for the canvas. It's also got all these pop rivets here with a sharp tooth rail seated.
So, I mean, if we make this back into a soft top, we can actually add value to the car. I mean, we might just as well still restore this roof, even though it's not original, but you know, also adding the option of a soft top would be awesome.
So it's got definitely some extra option parts here. You can see it's got a Smith's heater. That's very neat. Yeah, so that was an option with a lot of British vehicles that could come with a heater.
And this car was built in South Africa, PE South Africa.
Yeah, this is a Port Elizabeth built Land Rover.
Alright.
You can see, if you have a look at the badge on the back, you'll see it says South Africa.
Oh, is that so? Okay. Leyland, South Africa.
Yeah.
That's gorgeous. We're going to save all of this. Anyways guys, this is the project that I'm going to be keeping myself busy with. In the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be taking this whole Land Rover apart and then start with the restoration process. And maybe you guys can give me some input and feedback in the comments of exactly what your opinion and definitions are of what a restoration is, but we're going to take it down to the bones and then work our way up. And depending on what condition everything is underneath and how many gremlins we got waiting for us underneath this body, we'll probably repair and replace and repaint and restore as best as we can to get this Land Rover looking nice and beautiful again. So I'll be updating you guys every fortnight or so. In the meantime, Matthew's going to update you on the Cobra build. But I hope that by the end of this series, we're going to have ourselves a beautiful little Land Rover that we can give back to the owner, that he's going to be using on his farm and be very, very proud of. Any case, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope to hear from you in the comments. But I will see you next time. Cheers!